Well, today we've taken a fun road trip to Tulsa to a wonderful woodland garden. We're at the home of Doris Mayfield. And Doris, thank you for inviting us over.
That's quite all right.
Now, Doris, you have just an absolutely beautiful garden here. And how did you get the idea to start putting in a woodland garden?
Well, I guess I've always gardened, but I went on a tour here in Tulsa called Make Every Home a Wildlife Habitat.
Yes.
And I decided I would like that. So since then, I have pursued this and enjoyed it. The tour this year will be on June 10th and 11th here in Tulsa.
Well, good. So you're gardening not only for the plants, but also for the wildlife aspect of it.
And that's great fun because I've had hundreds of tadpoles, but toads around the house and other creatures, rabbits, and it's fun to watch. And birds, of course, the birds.
Now, part of your habitat gardens, I know you were telling me earlier that you really don't like to use a lot of pesticides or insecticides.
I don't use any pesticides or herbicides, and that makes it interesting because I get more birds around eating the insects. They do that work.
Right. They're your insecticide.
Right.
The birds. So, well, this is beautiful. Now, when you had the idea to start a woodland garden, we're out here in the front of your house, and you have quite a bit of shade. How many oak trees are here?
Oh, there must be 10 or so.
And you started out with just, was it just a lawn area here?
Well, the trees have always been here, of course. But no, I started, I had a garden in that area for a long time, and I had areas where the grass wasn't growing so well. And so I thought, why not make another flower bed?
Right.
And so I started doing that, and it was, and liked it very much. And the plants are different, and it's a surprise every day.
That's true. Now, when you got the idea to do you've stayed towards native plants with your woodland garden. Did you just do that all by yourself?
Well, that again I learned from the Habitat tour, but those are the plants that the native animals and creatures like too, and they seem to adapt well to our environment here. So that's why I use it.
Oh, good. And so you also enlisted some help when you started getting really into the natives then, didn't you?
Yes, I asked Russell Studebaker when and he was retiring, and if he wanted to do any consulting, and so I was pleased when he agreed to it.
Well, speaking of Russell, he was nice enough to come over today. Russell, it's good to see you.
Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Doris.
Now, Russell is basically retired, but not really, because now he's a garden consultant and garden writer. And Russell, you helped Doris out with her plant selection for this garden quite a bit, didn't you?
Yes, we had a really interesting engagement here because we started about, 3 years ago, I believe, Doris, wasn't that correct? And Doris approached me about wanting to do a woodland garden. And the site was so nice because you had the trees, the soil was a nice sandy, well-drained soil, but we needed organic matter because as you know, woodland plants grow in organic matter. So this has been a wonderful experience, not only in learning, but fortunately, Doris has done most of the work. I've just done some of the brains in this. And Doris added copious amounts of pine bark and peat moss and her own leaf compost, and rototilled it in herself. And so we made the beds, made the design, made the beds, and then we started planting. And it's really made the difference in how some of these plants have grown.
Well, this is definitely the case that you have had a very nice cooperation here. You've done a wonderful job, and Russell's going to just point out some of the natives that have been used in here and that are great for the state of Oklahoma.
Well, Doris wanted mostly native plants, and some of these are native to Oklahoma, and some are native to the United States. We've used different shade-tolerant sedges and grasses. This one happens to be grazed sedge, or morning star sedge, and it has these interesting fruit bodies on them. They're not sharp, and they turn darker as the season progresses, and it's a very interesting plant. The other thing that this garden needed was some relief. It was on a slope but kind of flat, so I added the sandstone boulders, and we added
Yes.
logs, because you would find logs in a woodland setting. And so it gives a more natural aspect to this. Currently, we have about 240 different species and cultivars planted in the garden.
Wow.
Predominantly, they are native plants, but we do have a few non-natives, because we extended the season into late summer or the fall, with fall blooming crocuses and colchicums and that sort of thing.
Now that's really important when you're doing a garden like this, is to plan for all of the seasons instead of just one.
Yes, that's true, because many of our woodland plants are early spring bloomings, or the bloomers, or they are ephemerals, and which means that they come up early in the spring, they do their flowering, set their seeds, and then they die before hot weather. So you need some things to tide over the rest of the garden.
Right. Well, we actually came earlier in the season to get some footage of some of those ephemeral plants. And Russell, if you'd be kind enough to describe some of them, because they were just absolutely gorgeous.
A couple of ephemerals that we had, and there are many ephemerals that we do have that you pictured earlier when you were by, were the Virginia bluebells, Mertensia, and it's one of the most striking of all the ephemerals, and it's native to certain parts of the U.S. Comes out with purple foliage, then it elongates, it loses the purple foliage, the first buds are pink, and then it changes to a beautiful sky blue. And then by late May or June, it's gone. And the other one is the trout lily, and you got a picture of it. It's very short, and you can find it over in lots of eastern parts of Oklahoma. And that was the yellow one that we have here. There is a white one, but we just don't happen to have the white one right as yet. But those are two good examples of the ephemerals that we have in the garden.
Now there are also other plants that bloom earlier,
Yes.
but they don't necessarily disappear
Yes.
altogether.
Right. And many of the woodland plants, as I said, bloom early because they need to make their food before the leaves come out of the trees. And one of the showiest ones that you saw earlier was the ragwort or squallweed, Senecio ovatus, and that one is common through much of eastern and into central Oklahoma. Then we had another one that you took was waterleaf or woolen breeches. The blue was just exceptionally nice on it. It is a biennial, but it seeds well enough that there will be some plants that will germinate and come back for next year.
Okay.
And then I think we shot the little bluets, a little small, about this tall plant, and very, very blue. They're called, a common name is Quaker ladies, and I don't know what that connection is, but that's a cute little handle that they go by too.
Now Russell, not everything in this garden is an herbaceous perennial though, is it?
No, we included several woody plants that are woodland plants that are have some different texture and other bloom periods, and that are actually shrubs. One of them, one of the species that we did was some of the native azaleas, and those are quite delightful to have, and they're fragrant.
Yes.
As opposed to the non-native ones.
So, and some people may not realize that there is a native azalea.
There are several native azaleas, and I think we filmed one last session, did we not?
So, well, now that we've looked at the garden earlier, the gardens are just totally different now. There's always something new blooming here, isn't there? And this phlox is beautiful.
This is prairie phlox, Phlox pilosa, and it grows at really kind of the edge of the woodlands. And we had a sunny area here that's really on the edge of Doris's woodlands, and so we planted it here, and it's done quite well, and it really is a traffic stopper.
It is. It's beautiful. And now we've talked a lot about woodland plants and things here, and I know that it's really important for people to get these plants in the right way. It's important not to go out and harvest them from native areas, isn't it?
Right, and Doris has kept a running log on our sources of plants that we have used.
That's a good idea.
And
That's a very
when we
good idea.
acquired them and that sort of thing. And we have quite a palette of commercial nurseries from all over the country that we've had to order these different plants from. Having the catalogs makes it accessible to get these plants this way. And you're quite right. We need to, if we want to preserve what's in the wild, then we need to encourage those people who are in commercial businesses of nurseries to propagate more, and we can do that by ordering from them.
Right. And so, again, the nurseries that we choose, they need to propagate wild plants in the proper way and not harvest them from the wild either, right?
And there are some in Oklahoma.
Great. So, well, this has been a wonderful tour, and Russell, I thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, and Doris, thank you for sharing your yard and all your hard work with us. It's been great.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.